Hi, this is Marcus Curtis from Marcus Curtis Music, and this is our fourth video on the Behringer X32 Producer. In our last video, we covered downloading the firmware update, downloading the drivers and installing those on our computer, downloading the app and getting the Behringer X32 Producer connected to the computer via the Ethernet port and the USB port as well. And we downloaded the free software so we can record our music on our computer. And I will provide a link to the last video in this video's description so you can go back and catch up on that information. Now, by now, if you've done all of this, chances are you've come across certain problems you don't know how to work through. So this video is basically going to be a troubleshooting video. It's going to show you certain things that will come up, and we're going to address those things, common things, you know. And if you're unaware of this is the first time you're doing this, some of these things will catch you off guard, and it can be extremely frustrating. So hopefully there's something in here that will help you through your issue if you're having issues doing this. I'm also going to show you how to connect the hardware with your computer, and how to get into your software and set that up so it works seamlessly with the hardware. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, in order to explain how to integrate your software with your hardware, we're going to use several different types of audio interfaces. We're going to use the Behringer X32. We're going to use that as an audio interface. I'm also going to use the Line 6 Pod X3 Pro as an audio interface. I'm also going to use the Tascam US16x08 as an audio interface as well. Okay, I'm also going to use my Yamaha MX61 as a MIDI controller. A MIDI controller is an important thing. It allows you to control software synths. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is to make sure that our operating system sees all of our hardware. In order to do that, we need to go down to our Start button, right-click, and go up to Device Manager. Okay, so when Device Manager opens up, you can see that this little triangle, sideways triangle arrow thing, you click on that. This is all the audio hardware. Okay, I'm using a Yeti mic for this portion of the video. That you see, my default sound card is a Realtek audio device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start turning on the hardware one by one, and you'll see as the hardware turns on, if the drivers are installed correctly, it'll show right in this area. So here we go. We'll start with the pod, and then we'll go to the Tascam, and then we'll turn on the Behringer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on and plug in our MIDI controller. Okay, so here is our pod. Here is our Behringer. Here is our Yamaha, our MIDI controller. Here's our Tascam unit, US16x08. Okay, if there's any issues with any drivers, you'll see like a yellow triangle over here. If you see any yellow triangles over here, no matter what you do with the software, if this is not lined out first, you're never going to fix it. So always start with the drivers, because if you have a hardware conflict, it doesn't matter what you do with the hardware or the software, you'll never get it resolved until you get all the yellow boxes out of here. Okay, so once that's done, the next thing you're going to want to do, and I always do this whenever I record, is I go over here and I disconnect from the internet. And it's just a matter of disconnecting. There we go. All right. So once that's done, one other thing you want to look for is you want to go down here to where your sound card is. And just click the Start button, left click. You can go down, and what you want to do is get to the control panel. And I'll show you why here in a minute. And once you find Systems, click on Windows Systems. You'll see the control panel right here. Now, if you don't want to go through this every time, you can right-click and go Pin to Start. And it's on your Start. Or what you can do is you can right-click and go More and Pin to Taskbar. So now here's your control panel right here. So you can just kind of move it wherever you want. Now, every time you want to go to the control panel, all you have to do is click on the icon, and the control panel opens up just like that. And what we're looking for, basically, is our sound card. So we're going to click on the sound card, and it should open. There it is. Okay, so here's all the hardware. Now, see the Yamaha? When I clicked on all the hardware, the operating system went in, and it selected the Yamaha and the pod as our default sound devices. That's for playback. For recording, it selected the Yamaha for recording as well. Our Yamaha keyboard is also an audio interface, but we're using it as a MIDI controller. Okay, so this only will take one time to set this up, so you only have to do this one time. But what you want to do is you want to find your default sound card. In this case, our default sound card is the Realtek. And just want to right-click on that and go to Set as Default Device. Right-click again and Set as Default Communication. So we're going to go into the Recording tab. We're going to go down here, and we're going to right-click and Set as Default Device, and set as default communication. Okay, so here we go. So now our computer sound card is set as the default device. And the reason why you want to do this is because any kind of system sounds that play back through your system will play back through your sound card. But if you have your audio interface hooked up, then those sounds will play through your audio interface if it's selected as your default device. Now you can change your default playback anytime you want by going down to where the volume is. You click on the volume, you see Realtek. That's what we just switched everything to. You hit on the arrow and here's all your hardware. So if you wanted to make the Behringer your default device to play back your system sounds, you would just do that. And you can click on it again. And let's go back to our default sound card here, which is the Realtek. And that's what we want for our default operating system. That way we can use the software. We don't have to worry about the operating system trying to get a hold of the software, of the hardware that we're using for recording our music with. Okay, it'll play all the system sounds back through your sound card, whether your speakers are on or off, it won't matter. It won't interfere, okay? So once that's done, the other thing I like to do before I start recording is I like to turn off any program running in the background. And if I'm off the internet, I don't have to worry about certain types of programs. So to do this, all I do is I right-click and I go up to Task Manager. When Task Manager comes up, we can see the ones that are open. These are background processes. There's 63 of them. There's a lot of these things I really don't need. And you just right click and task. Now if you don't see this when you open up Task Manager, chances are you see this right here. Okay? It only shows you what's open up. Click on more details and it'll open up this box right here, and then you can look at your performance, your app history, what turns on every time you start your computer, and you can disable and enable stuff in here. So what we're going to do now is anything that's running in the background, we're going to remove. And the reason why is because we want the system resources. We don't want the CPU bothering with these things in the background while we're recording music. So it's just a matter of right-click and task, right-click and task, right-click and task. And as we do this, you can see that down here, all these icons are loaded into RAM. Okay, so what we're going to do as we go and end task on a lot of this stuff, you'll see we don't need the CD-ROM running in the background. We're not on the internet. We don't need Google running in the background. Okay, we're not using a cloud service, so we don't need that running in the background. So just go through and get rid of all the stuff. And you see how this kind of shrunk down? These are all programs that are running in the background. And as you do this, you want your drivers. These are drivers for the Behringer. So as you remove the things that are running in the background that you don't need, this is just an example. I'm not going to go through all of this. But you'll free up your CPU and your RAM for more recording power. And you'll need that once you get into mastering and mixing. So you'll be surprised what little every little bit helps, and that'll make a big difference. Okay, so now we've got that done. Whatever audio interface you're going to use, you need to start the software for that. For example, if I was going to use my Tascam, I'd want to start my Tascam software, and let me get to it here. And here it is on my other screen. And so if I was going to record with my Tascam, this is the thing I'd have up. If I was going to record with my pod, I'd either start Pod Farm or Gearbox. But I'm recording with the Behringer, so I want to start the Behringer app. And the Behringer app should come up. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is it wants you to connect your computer to the Behringer. Now, if you don't see this, chances are there's something wrong with your Ethernet connection. Make sure the Ethernet connection is connected to the computer. we'll click connect. So we want to take the settings from the mixer to the PC, or take the settings from the PC to the mixer. In this case, mixer to the PC. So it's all going over. So now that it's all set up, everything we do on this app will automatically adjust in the mixer. What we're going to do is we're going to blow this up. Now, if this doesn't fit your screen right, you got this resize. You have standard, medium. So this will basically resize it to however you want it to be. So we're just going to go back to standard here. See, there's a standard, medium, then there's high. Windows width and Windows height, and that's basically what I do. Okay, so once we got this done, we're just going to hit on the setup. This is the same setup button that you find on your Behringer mixer. So you can see if you're not connected, then you can connect through here, and then over here we have our mixer settings. Okay, right now we're at 48K. Okay. And then over here, there's our GUI preferences. But the one we really want is this all the way over here, card. This is our audio interface section. And we can make a choice right here. We can go 32 in, 32 out. Basically what this means is you can record on 32 channels going in at the same time and play back 32 channels at the same time. But we're going to keep it real simple. We're going to go down to 2 in and 2 out for now, just to keep it real simple. Okay. So now, I'm just going to close that out. And this is all we're going to do in here for now. We'll cover a little bit more later. So now we need to get our software set up, and we use Cakewalk. Now, I'm using Cakewalk as an example, but you'll find the same settings in any audio recording platform you use. Any DAW application. DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. Any one of those that you use, you'll wind up having the same settings. They're more or less universal settings. The first thing is that Cakewalk wants us to choose a MIDI output now. Now we have a MIDI controller in, but we're not going to set that up just yet, so we're just going to continue without MIDI. Okay, so now previous things that I've recorded, previous projects have come up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to edit, and everything that you adjust in Cakewalk is found in the Preferences tab. Okay, so we're going to click on the Preferences tab, and we're going to focus on the audio section right in here. Okay, I want to make sure that that's set up properly. Okay, so right now, as you can see, we have multiple devices hooked, and that tells me that we don't have the right driver base. So we're going to go to Playback and Record, and you'll see we have to choose a driver type. Here is MME. MME stands for Multimedia Extensions, and this type of driver has been around since Windows 95, Windows 98. It's old. Okay. Then we click on here, and here are our choices. WDM kernel streaming. This has been new technology that was introduced with Windows XP. It's still an older platform or driver type. Now, WAS API is the new driver type that Windows uses. But what we want is ASIO. ASIO stands for Audio Streaming Input and Output. This is probably the best driver type you can find with your hardware to record with, especially with the Behringer. If you look at the Behringer drivers, you'll notice it says ASIO on the drivers. Okay, so we're going to hit Apply. So now we've just changed everything here by hitting Apply. So now we're going to go back to Device. And this is where we can choose our audio devices. We have the USB. Here's our Behringer mixer right here. Everything else is grayed out. We cannot select it. Okay. If we uncheck the Behringer here and we uncheck the Behringer here, everything becomes dark. And now we can, if we want to select a Tascam, we just select a Tascam, and everything else. Now we can't select a Behringer or the Yamaha. The reason why is because ASIO will only use one hardware device at a time. You can't use multiple devices of ASIO with different platforms. You can only use one hardware device with ASIO at a time. And we want the Behringer, so we're going to click on the Behringer. And then we're going to go ahead and hit Apply. Okay. So that's set up. Now we're going to go to our driver settings. Now you see in the driver settings tab, we're set up at 44K sample rate. That's what we've recorded our projects on, our previous projects on. And here's our driver in and our driver out. Okay. And we can call up the ASIO panel, and this is according to our Behringer mixer here. And in here, we can select our buffer size, and we can select, there's ASIO. That's what you want to make sure you use that. Now, the higher samples we go, okay, the higher the latency is going to be. Okay, so right now we're at 512 samples. Okay, so if we select that, you notice that our latency is 11.6 milliseconds. Okay, if we take that and adjust that back down to 256, you'll see that our latency is 5.8 milliseconds. I wish we could adjust this all the way down to 8 samples. But the problem, and see our latency is real low. Problem is you'll have dropouts, and I wish we can just take this all the way up. But the problem is with a low latency, a lot of times we wind up with dropouts, and the software will just stop recording. So the 252 or 56 sample rate is a great sample rate. 5.8 seconds is a really low latency. So here's a tip. Record with your latency really low, because that's how you get the best recordings. But when you go to mix and when you go to master, you can raise the latency setting to 512 or 1024 samples. What this will do is it'll allow the processor to handle more plugins and more things. So it's okay to raise the latency setting when you're mixing or mastering, but lower it when you do your audio recording. Okay. Now, we have, for the most part, our drivers are all set up. Okay, so now let's go to our MIDI devices. As you can see, these are all the different MIDI devices that we have to choose from. We're going to use our Yamaha, but before we do that, we're going to go through our instruments. Here's a list of our MIDI instruments. Notice there's nothing in there. This is supposed to be hardware and output channels, and these are our user instruments, or like a software synth type stuff. And then a controller surface. We have to set up a controller surface too. So to do this, let's go to devices, and we're going to select the Yamaha. Okay. And now we're going to select the Yamaha down here, but I'll show you something. We'll select this Tascam MIDI, and we'll select this, and we'll move to the top, and then we'll select the Yamaha and move that to the top. So now that we have this, we're going to hit apply. We have it somewhat set up. So when we go back to our instruments, notice that our Tascam is first. And there, we need the Yamaha to be first in here. So we're going to go back to our devices. I'm going to uncheck this. I want this to be at the top. So just move the device to the top. You want the Yamaha device to be at the top. So now if we check this, okay, I'm going to apply. When we come back to our instrument section, now our Yamaha is at the top, and as we scroll down, you see here's our Tascam device. Okay, so we want the top device we're going to use, we want that to be first to control our audio synths. Okay, so let's go back to devices, and what we're going to do is we're going to take off the Tascam. We're just going to use the Yamaha. I'm going to move all of these to the top. Okay, so there we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to instruments. You can see we're all set up. We're just going to hit apply. So now when we scroll down, we have nothing but Yamaha. That's what we want. So now we have to set up a control surface. Now all of these are type of universal things you're going to find in every DAW, and they're going to be in different locations in different places. And terminology might be a little bit different, but all of these settings are going to be in every recording platform you use. So we're setting up a control surface for a MIDI controller, and we're going to hit the plus to add one. So this box comes up. It's just an ACT MIDI controller is all we're doing. We have a Yamaha. The first thing that we have is our Yamaha. Hit OK. And so now we have the Yamaha hooked up. So anytime we load a software synthesizer, we can use our keyboard, our Yamaha keyboard, to play that synthesizer. Okay. So our MIDI is completely set up, and our audio is completely set up. Now let's go to the VST settings. If you're looking to extend the capabilities of your recording platform, you could do this through VST Plugins. And now they come in a variety of flavors. You can get VST instruments, you can get VST synthesizers, you can get VST mastering effects and dynamic plugins, and even VST effects such as reverb units and chorus units. And I have arranged a lot of these on my website for free. There are thousands of VST plugins out there available. My favorite ones are arranged on my website, and you can download them for free. This is a DX7 right here, Yamaha DX7 from the 1980s. And there's a bunch of them available, and I have a whole host of effects available for free. These are all my favorite ones. They've all been tested, and they're tried and true. So you can go to the website and download them. I will leave links in the video description, so you can go ahead and get them and add them to your recording platform. Okay, so what do you do if you have VST plugins that are not showing up inside your software? And in my case, I have some Line 6 software because I have Line 6 hardware. And the plugins don't show up inside Cakewalk, and I want to use them in Cakewalk. So what we're going to do is we're going to troubleshoot some VST problems. We're going to start by starting our audio interface hardware, and in this case, it's our Behringer App. And we want to make sure that this is started every time we start our recording platform. Okay, there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to minimize this once this is started. Now we're going to start our Cakewalk software, our DAW application. And notice down to the right here, it's scanned 330 plugins we have, but I'm missing my Line 6 plugins. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to Edit and go down to Preferences. And you'll see here's the audio section and video section. Under the File section, you'll see VST Settings. Click on VST Settings, and this is the area where we troubleshoot. So as we see, our Line 6 folders aren't in here, and it didn't install the programs in some of the default plugin VST plugin folders. So now what we have to do is we have to find these plugins. So we hit Add, and what we do is we're just going to navigate down until we find them. And here's our hard drive. So these are 32-bit type plugins, so we click on that. Here we are at Line 6, going to go down there, and here we see VST plugins. So we're just going to highlight that, hit OK, and now notice it's scanning the Gearbox plugins. So now I have 33 plugins. I have more I need to get, so what I'm going to do is hit Add. I'm going to hit the arrow, blow it up, go down to my hard drive. We're going to go down to the 32-bit folder again, and we're going to look at Line 6, and this time let's go to Pod Farm and see in Pod Farm we have VST. Just highlight that, hit OK, and now it's installing the rest of the plugins, and I'm missing all the Pod Farm stuff is being installed. And that brings the total count of plugins up to 357 plugins that I can use. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure that this scan and sandbox is checked. That's this turquoise box that comes up. Okay, and also you want automatic scan in the background. Anytime there's a plugin change, it'll pick it up. Okay, so you want that checked too. Now, if a plugin is not working, or if you're having issues with certain types of plugins, and all the folders are correct, you can hit reset, and then you can go ahead and start a rescan. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to take a while to do it. But you hit reset, and then you rescan it, and it will find the plugins that you're having issues with. Typically, if you change out to a newer plugin version, that might solve a lot of your problems. So this is the area where you troubleshoot if your VST plugins are not showing up. That's the area where you'll need to address it right in there. Okay, so I'm going to hit apply once we're all done and close. Always apply your settings. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go and open up a project, and we're going to make some adjustments within the Behringer mixer. So we're going to do a new project, and we're going to do just a basic project, and it's going to open up, and it's created it successfully. So this part here is called the inspector. If I highlight this, this turns in this channel right here. If I highlight the next one, it becomes the MIDI channel. So this is the channel strip for. So if I put like a bunch of audio tracks in here, whichever, and I'll hit the F key, and that'll blow everything up. Whichever track I highlight, here's channel 3, here's channel 3 channel strip. Here's channel 4 channel strip. So this is the inspector. So that goes from here to the master bus. Okay, and then so I can remove this if I want to just by hitting the I, and the inspector goes away. Over here, the browser. This is where I can plug in all kinds of MIDI instruments, plugins, all kinds of stuff. I can do rewire, I can do effects, I can browse for all kinds of things in here, including loops or whatever. I find it all in here. If I don't want the browser, I hit B, and the browser goes away. So now here I am in this section right here. So if you look at over here, it says custom. I'm just going to make sure that everything is displaying. So I'm going to take channel 3 and I'm going to make it bigger. And if I hit none, you can see that right now for a source I have none, but before I record I need to pick a source. So I can just pick from the Behringer and I can arm it, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready now to record. I just run a test. I don't have anything plugged in right now, but I would just, set my meter and hit record, and that's all there is to it. I only have, because if you recall, I only have 2 in and 2 out, so I only have the option of 2 tracks at a time. We're going to fix that though. Okay, so if I hit D, D is for the multi-dock, and here comes multi-dock. Right now in the multi-dock we have the mixing console, and you can add other things to the multi-dock by going up to where it says views, and let's say you wanted to do the piano roll view. Well, now the piano roll view is in play, and you can switch back and forth from the console to the piano roll view. But right now we don't care about the piano roll view, we want the console view. And if I go ahead over here and I pull this out, you'll see I have 2 outputs basically. So I have 2 in and 2 out as I have selected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut this off. I'm just going to go ahead and exit out. Hit close. And no, don't want to save the project. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and close out this part. I'm going to blow up the Behringer. I'm going to go over here to setup. Under setup, I'm going to go to card. And I'm going to change this right in here, our configuration. I'm going to change it from 2 in, 2 out to 32 in and 8 out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that right there. I'm going to keep that open. I'm going to minimize it. Go up to Cakewalk and open it up. It says there are no audio devices. If you ever get this, see this. Here's our little famous yellow triangle box. And it okay. So this is going to boot up. Now here's our VST scan. There's our missing plugins that we found. So we're going to go over here to edit. And we're going to go over to preferences. Now what happens when we go into audio? It says no audio devices are found because nothing is checkmarked. We've switched it. Now look at we have 8 in now. So we're just going to go down here and select all 8 of these. And we have 32 in with the Behringer up here. So we're going to go up here and select all 32 of the inputs for the Behringer. Take a little while, but that's okay. So we get everything selected, and I'm going to hit apply. And now we're all set up. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to open up another project, brand new project, and we'll just still make this a basic one. Okay, so now I'm going to insert an audio track here. Now when I pick a source, before I only had 2 Behringer inputs. Now look at this. I have 32. I can go channel 1 and channel 2, or channel 1 and channel 2 stereo, channel 3 and channel 4, or channel 4 stereo. I have up to 32 inputs I can use now to record at one time if I want. And now when I hit the multi-dock, which I do, let's press I, get rid of the inspector, press B, get rid of the browser, press D, and engage the multi-dock. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and raise this up a little bit so you can see. Here is the bus section. I'm going to take this and drag this over. Now, when I drag my inputs out, come on over here, inputs. You You see I have a collection of 8, left and right, left and right, left and right, and left and right. That makes 8 outputs. Now, this is cool because I can do surround sound now. I can, and Sonar will enable you to record in surround sound. It also does audio to video work as well. So you can do you can import your video into Sonar. You can do your audio and video work, and you can, if you want to, record in surround sound using your Behringer mixer. Okay, so here's a problem that'll really stump some people. Here are previous projects that I've recorded. Okay, so I'm just going to open up one of them. This one, the Night Flight, I open up that one. And it loads just fine. So we're ready to rock. The project is loaded, right? So we go to hit play. And we get an error. Here's our little yellow triangle. Okay, it says unable to open up audio playback device. Device may not support current project audio format or may be in use. For help, please visit. And you wind up chasing your tail as you visit all these sites trying to find a solution, right? This is the most frustrating thing imaginable. So let's find a solution. Really, it's really simple. If I were to start a new project, I would have no problems recording a new project. And I recorded this with my Tascam. So at first I thought, well, this was the Tascam audio interface. Maybe that's the problem, right? Maybe it just needs the Tascam audio interface. But I want to use my Behringer. What is the problem? Well, the problem is I recorded this at 41.1K sample rate. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to close the project. Okay. And then we need to close Cakewalk. Now, let's go open up the Behringer mixer. And we're going to go over here to Setup. And underneath Setup, you'll notice 48K. Now, the previously recorded project was recorded in 44.1K. What happens is when I hit play, it tries to play back with this sample rate and it generates the error message. So to get rid of the error message, all we have to do is switch this to 44.1K sample rate. So if you have previously recorded projects, and chances are you have it in 44.1K sample rate, the Behringer by default from the factory is 48K sample rate. So if you reset the factory defaults, it'll be 48K sample rate and you won't be able to figure out. I mean, this drove me nuts trying to figure this out. So we go ahead and hit close on the card there. And all we have to do is minimize this and restart the Cakewalk software. So now the software is opening up. I'm going to reopen up our project again. And now when we hit play, our project works. It plays with no problems. So if you ever run into an error message and you're not quite sure how to address it, that is the problem right there. You need to make sure that the sample rate in the mixer matches the sample rate of your project. Okay? So we have another problem though. As we listen to this, we're not hearing any audio. Okay, so let's address that. We're going to stop this right now. I'm going to go over and open up the Behringer mixer. Okay, so the solution to this problem is actually found in the routing. So we go up to where the routing is and we click on routing. And we see that this is the same routing we find on the mixer. In the screen, when you hit that routing button on the screen, this is the same type of map that opens up. Okay, so routing basically is complicated. It can be very complicated. But basically what you can do is you can route any input channel to any output channel, hence the nature of routing. Okay, so we're going to go over to the Cakewalk application. We're going to hit play to start the project playing. Okay, and now we're going to go over to the Behringer again, and if we hit just the routing, if that's all we need, that'll open up, but we're going to need the mixer too, so we're just going to go ahead and click on the mixer and the routing, get it both connected. Okay, so here we have our channels in group of 8s. Here's our outputs. Okay, now this card right here, this card means our USB card or our audio device here. Okay, so what we want to do is use channels 25 through 32 to play back the sound card. Remember, we have 32 in and 8 out. So all we're going to do is go to the input section here. Okay, and right now we have it on play. And we're going to take this and move it over to where it says card 1 through 8, just like that. So we're using channels 25 through 32 to play back channels 1 through 8 on the card. Now remember that on our selection for the audio interface, we have 32 in and 8 out. So the first 8 channels out is what we're playing back. So we'll just go down here to where we have 16 through 32, click on that, and look, there is our audio playing back. We just kind of raise up our meters. There we go. Here's our master fader here if we want to make it louder. There we go. So we have 8 channels basically that we can use to mix. So we can do surround sound. I'll show you that in a minute. If we want to do left and right on this, it's just a matter of highlighting this right here, or highlighting anything on this channel, just clicking on the channel. Then go over to this channel right here and do stereo link. And we hit OK. That makes it a stereo link. And it pairs these two together. So now we have left and right, up and down together. Okay. And overall volume is adjusted right there. Okay. So now we have our audio playback. We're going to go back to our Sonar project. Now here are, if we pull this out, you can see our 8 channels. So we can do our surround sound mixing, and we can do audio to video work. Cakewalk basically does it all. It's great software. It's hard to believe that it's free, and I'll put a link in the video description where you can get it. And so that's it for this video. We've solved some troubleshooting issues. If I didn't cover your issue, just kind of leave a comment down there. We'll see if I have an answer for you. I'm learning stuff about this all the time. See if we can find an answer together. Okay, if you like the video, make sure you subscribe and click like and share it with people. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.